Okay, so I've got a fill color. So right here, this little tool right here is a shape tool, okay? So if I come in here, right here, I've got fill, and I've got shape, and I've got path, and I've got pixels. We're gonna focus on shape. Then I've got a stroke here, and I've got a stroke weight. I've got a line type here, and then I've got a few other tools over here. So if I pick this, and I go, it's gonna, because there's a fill here, it's gonna fill it with that color. Okay, now here's what you gotta remember with this. These are vector shapes, okay? So these are like, I don't use this tool that much in Photoshop because I tend, if I'm gonna use in vector, I'm gonna go into Illustrator. Does that make sense? Because Illustrator is a vector-based program. So what does it mean if I make a shape with this as opposed to a raster image is what we usually deal with in Photoshop? What's the difference here? Anybody know? Yeah, exactly. It's resolution independent. So we talk about this with resolution, like a 72 dpi image. Let's say it's 6 by 6 inches. If I go any over that 6 by 6 inches, it will fall apart. It'll pixelate. Vector doesn't do that, no matter how big or small you go. Okay. Now, if I go over here, so I could go in here. I could select this. I could pick this line color. If I can get it to, there it goes. Oh, that's weird. Why is it not giving me my black? Let's try it here. Okay, there. So I just gave it a stroke, okay? So let's go back here and let's go, I'm gonna go give it a fatter stroke. So there's the stroke line, okay? And I could also change this stroke to these different ideas here. I can also come in here, right here. So you have a couple of things. This is a line tool. What that does is if I have multiple objects here, if I click this, this will align it to the left. This will align all my objects on a center line. This will align them to the right, so on and so forth, okay? If I have multiple shapes, okay? But right here, if I go, and there's different, you know, you have combine shape, subtract front shape, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to subtract front shape. And I'm going to go back to my shape, and I'm going to go, and if you see what it just did, because I put it on subtract, it took away that center shape that I made. Does that make sense? Okay, it's pretty simple. Now, let's look at another thing here. Let's go, so down here, under Custom Shape Tool, I get this, if you look up here, right there, I can drop down here now and go, let's go to boats, let's go to that. And if I pull this, and I hold shift to constrain it, it just gives me these pre-made shapes. Does that make sense? Now, I can come in here, I can select it again, go to my shape tool, and I can change the color. I can do all that sort of thing. It gives you a lot of, if you're just doing quick, I don't know, flyery stuff or something like that, this stuff will come in handy, okay? Here's animals. So I'm going to take this file, I'm going to alt drag it. I think it's alt, no, that's the wrong one. I'm thinking of a Mac, hang on. I'm going to control drag it. I want to make a copy, so it made a copy. I'm going to call this copy Displacement Map. And I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to go to my hue saturation. And I'm going to desaturate it. And I'm also going to go up to my blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to give it a 1-point blur, which you're barely going to notice. It smooths it out or whatever so the program understands it. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to save this. So I'm going to do a save as, because this has to be a PSD file. So I'm going to save this as a PSD file, Photoshop file. And then I'm going to open, I'm going to make a copy of this just so I'm not screwing everything up. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go going to make a type layer, okay? Actually, let's break this up. And I'm going to go to my character window because I want to spread this out a little bit. Which it's not doing, which is weird. Oh, I know why. That's good. And then I'm going to go to... Now, this is only going to work with a type layer or a vector layer like we just looked at, okay? I'm going to go to Filter, Distort, and I'm going to go to Displace. Oh, wait. One thing I left out. This has to be, your type layer needs to become a smart layer. There's two file formats it'll work in, or wait, one's smart layer. I think the other one's bitmap. I can't remember. Use smart layer. It's better. It's smarter. Okay, so let's go to Filter, Distort, Displace. And this is the default thing, 10 by 10 up here. If you want to dial it in higher, you can go up higher, but this is a good place to start. This stuff you can just leave alone, okay? And I'm going to go OK. And then what it's asking me for, it's going, I want a displacement map. So that's what I made before, okay? So I'm going to double click this. And what it's done now, if you can kind of tell, so I could bump this up a little more if I wanted to. It started to distort this a little bit. Let's go back one and try this. I want to make sure you can see it. So let's try, I'm going to go back to Filter, back to Distort, back to Displace, and let's go up to like 40. I don't know if that'll do. Let's see. Grab my displacement map. Yeah. Okay, so you see how it started conforming to the fabric? Does that, you guys see that? Okay, so now if I come in here and I go, let's try this. Let's go up to, double click this, and I'm gonna, okay, so if I double click the bar, I get our layer style, which you guys remember is right up here. Okay, and I'm gonna go to, let's see, color overlay, and I'm gonna go, why is it not going? Here we go. And I'm gonna go, let's go to like a blue or something. Or it's Christmas, let's go to green. And make it a little less crazy. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to find an overlay. I'm just going to rasterize this and see what happens. So I want to make a layer above it. And now if you notice, like there, you can see it pretty good, how it's sort of conformed to that fabric. Does that make sense? Yeah. You guys? Okay, so look. There, you can really see it there. Okay. Now what it's doing is it's taking that black and white information, sort of like what we did with gradient mapping in a certain way, and it's knowing, basically I think what it's doing, hang on. I think what it's doing is it's reading that if the light's here, then obviously it's a raised surface, and then it goes to a half, and it goes to a dark, and it warps over that automatically, okay? Now I rasterize it, so I'm not dealing with it as a displacement map anymore, so that's kind of nice. And then I could come in here, and I could adjust this to whatever I want it to be. It's a really handy tool if you're doing things like apparel design and a lot of other things. So let's look at one other thing. So let's do the same thing with this. So let's go. Now, what some people do is they'll go, I don't want to do all that. To me, this doesn't make any sense. And I'm just going to get rid of this. And then I'm going to go save as. I'm going to go brick. Wall. save. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back to this one. Now, I'm going to go, let's go. I'm going to go through the same thing. So I'm going to go, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to a smart object. And then I'm going to go filter, distort, displace. I'm going to go to 40 again, why not? Grab my displacement map. Oh, that's a wrong displacement map. See how it conformed to the other thing? Filter, distort, displace. Okay. Where is my displacement map? Hang on a sec. It's not reading it. Hang on. Oh, you know why? Because this, I left it as a JPEG. It can't be a JPEG. It has to be a PSD file. So I do a save as, and I'm going to change it to a PSD file. Go back here, go back here. Filter, distort, displace, and find my brick wall displacement map. Now, I had it at 40 by 40, okay, so it kind of blasted up the edges a little bit. I actually kind of like it because it feels a little more spray painted to me. And then I'm going to go, I could reduce that down. I could take it back down to 10, but in this case it actually makes sense. Then I'm going to double click. I could go up here too, by the way. I could go up to layer, go layer style, and go to color overlay. And let's get a little better color here. I'm going to try this. Yeah. And then I'm going to go, and I'm just going to, for this kind of thing, I make another layer and I'm just going to combine them, and that'll just turn it into a regular layer. Sometimes I just do it that way because it's easier. And then I'm just going to find an overlay that works. Another thing, like that actually works too. That kind of works. That kind of works. You can see it's showing me the brick through it. It's wrapping around the brick. And also, if I found one I like that, I might just take this and double it, or even triple it sometimes. And I might pull one down. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Let's try it. Oh, I'm going to give you guys the file right now. Let me give you all these files. Remember that the 3D thing we did before lives under this is just a 3D section right here, okay? That's not where we're going here. I'm going filter, 3D, and I've got generate bump map, or I've got generate normal map. Now the difference I've heard between the two is that normal has more information, so I'm going to go to normal. And it's going to give me this. So what it's done is it's taken that texture and it's mapped it onto this object, okay? Now I can come down here and I can go, what does it look like? Cube wrap.
So interesting.
Okay, now what they use this for usually is to generate maps for 3D models and texturing, okay, games and all that kind of stuff. It's got, what this is showing you here though, is just, hey, this is what it looks like, okay, on an object. So it sort of gives you an idea of how much texture you have, how much detail you have. That's just putting it on one face. I can go here and go to donut. And see how this looks on different things. Now, the other thing I can do here is I can blur it. I can go detail scale. If you notice, that made it a little more detail-y. I can go to here on these things and I can pull these up. Or I can dial it in. There you go. And I can adjust things. I think it's just going to the mid and the high and the lows and just, you know, pushing them. I can go to invert height, and everything goes to exactly that. It'll go sort of like an embossing, like a pillow embossing, okay? I can go to, these are sort of the same tools we had over there, just in relation to moving it. So if I go to this one, it's only going to warp it or move it this way. If I go to this one, it's only doing it that way. If I go to this one, I think this zooms in and out. Yeah. And then this one is just our standard orbiting kind of thing. Let me move it over. And then down here, where is it? Here, so I'm going to get back to the, I want to uninvert the height. I'm going to go, I'm going to pull this back down, see what I get. Yeah, that's better. And then I got lighting options here. So let's go, like this one's weird. Okay, just gives me, we call it Mardi Gras lighting. Okay, so this gives me sort of an idea. Now, if I go, I'm going to go back to, let's do this. I'm just going to go to white lights. And I'm going to go back to, I don't like that. Hang on. Oh, daylights. Let's do that. Okay, daylight. Now, I'm going to say OK. And what it did is it generated this map. Okay. Now, this can get exported, and they will use it to texture map 3D models. Okay. But you can also use it. So let's save it. I mean, you can use it for a bunch of different things. Let's say I'm going to go here, and I'm going to desaturate it. So now I've got this. So I could take this. There's a lot of things I could do with it, but I might be able to. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know if it'll work. And I would normally be careful how I place this on here, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'd make sure normally it's placed right dead on to the map, to the existing item. And I could take this, and I could probably, I could find an overlay where it starts to give it a little more of that 3D look, okay? And all I'm doing is overlaying it. I'm just finding an overlay. So I've got this map on top of it, which will just give me a little more interesting, it gives me a little more, yeah, a little more depth, okay? There's a million things I can use this for. Yeah, I think it is cool. This one, I might be able to pull this back. Let's try this. Oops. Let's see if I can pull this back just a hair. Yeah. No, I lose it. So let's try. Let's keep going. That's kind of interesting. I even might be able to lay something back over that and do another overlay, but even that's kind of interesting as a subdued idea. Okay? So if I had type or something, I might do that. And by the way, if I have type, I might do something like, let's say this idea I kind of like. I could come here, I could make a layer mask like we've done earlier with our shadows and all that, and I could go and I could fade it, and I could have my headline on this side and my type over here, because like when I put type on this a minute ago, copy, like a lot of copy, and it sort of disappeared in there. This way I could do it this way, and I could sort of knock this out and the type will read better. And then I can have my big graffiti spraying it on the wall over here. Does that make sense? So it gives me a nice solution. Or I could go, let's keep going. That's not too bad. You know, and I could still go in here and go, well, maybe that's bright. I might be able to go in here and, yeah, I can take it down a little bit with my layer, or my levels. Okay, keep going. Divide, let's see what that looks like. Yeah. So I found a couple in there that were pretty useful. Does that make sense? Yeah? So grab, I don't care what you grab, okay? Just try something with some texture, okay? If we go to, what else did I have in here? This one. I haven't tried this one. Let's try this. And let's go 3D. Oops. 3D. For some reason, it's not giving me my option. Oh, it's under filter. Normal height. I'm going to generate normal map, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but okay, and it wraps it this way, and I could come in here and I could start playing around with. The detail's pretty high. Let's pull it down. Okay, so that just goes smooth. I'm going to go here. I'm going to try and pull this up a little bit. Yeah, that gave me a little more. Okay, so this would actually be the good start for a, like a planet, actually. But it's not going to generate that. Okay. So that would be another one. So you might want to try a couple different textures. Okay.